Release the Kraken.
Clash of the Titans. The good. The evil. The danger. The daring.
How may a mortal man face and defeat the Kraken?
Clash of the Titans.
Hey, everybody. I'm Zeus. She's Hera. He's Perseus. No, wait, that ain't it. He's the claymation Pegasus. She's the claymation Medusa. I'm the claymation Owl. Wait, that ain't it either. This isn't Clash of the Titans. This is Vikings Report. Drew and Ted. Drewster. How are you? Ted?
Find and fulfill your destiny.
Find and fulfill your destiny.
I seen that thing about 100 times when I was a teenager. I was in high school.
Yeah.
Probably 10 of those times was sober, but I probably seen it 100 times.
No, Andy!
You can't get enough of that movie.
I'm just a love my chick, and I don't work for nobody but you.
But you know what? I like that old school stop motion animation.
Release the Kraken. Think about this. Sir Laurence Olivier.
Yeah.
Such a respected actor. The British Empire knighted him. And at the end of his life, he's doing Clash of the Titans.
You will be punished.
With Harry Hamlin, who's going to end up on LA Law one day.
Let me tell you a little about Harry Hamlin. When they filmed that movie, when they cut it in 1979, Harry Hamlin met Ursula Andress, who played Aphrodite.
Aphrodite, yeah.
15 years her junior. Well, they got busy on the set.
Did they really?
Hamlin, he had that magic sword. They got together on the set and they were bumping boots, knocking sandals, Ted. I guess they were knocking sandals. And they had a kid after that movie was released.
No, did they really?
They had a kid and they were together till 93. But Ursula Andress, one of the most beautiful actresses. There's another big name that was on there. Yeah, Harry Hamlin pulled the bubo.
So you watching the XFL, the USFL, anything like that? You got a team?
No, I haven't seen any of that yet. I'm dying for football, but I'm looking at tape all day from these position guys. There's so many. There's like 40 guys you start with, and you start whittling it down. So, but the wide receivers, like we're going to cover tonight, that's always the funnest position to look at. And if you see that jersey behind me,
yeah,
to this day, that's still the greatest college tape I've ever seen. Was Percy Harvin.
Percy Harvin's or Moss?
Harvin's the greatest college video tape I've seen of any position of any player since I've been doing draft stuff.
Those two guys you have, those jerseys of those guys you have back behind you, Percy Harvin and Randy Moss. Those are the only two guys. And yes, this includes Adrian Peterson. And yes, this includes Chuck Foreman. And yes, this includes every other offensive player that has ever played for the Minnesota Vikings. There have been two players that have ever played for the Vikings that whenever I thought they were going to get the ball, they could score. Like I would literally, my breath would suck in like here we go. Because Moss and Harvin could house it on every play. And everybody in the comments are going to say, but Adrian Peterson, blah, 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 Adrian Peterson. No, because Adrian Peterson played against like 9-man fronts. And now if Peterson got to the second level, there's a good chance he would go. But I don't want you rage commenting, Adrian Peterson was a breakaway on any play. Shut up. No, he wasn't. Randy Moss and Percy Harvin. That's it. That's the list. The list ends there. That is it. That is it.
That's it. That's it. That is it.
How do you do it again?
Ruby, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, but I mean, who of our fans ever question our comments? I've never seen that before, ever.
We have a very dispassionate fan base.
Do we?
Report. Yeah. That's like,
what do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
Not dispassionate?
Like they release the Kraken on us every week, it feels like sometimes.
Kraken was gnarly. Remember when they first showed him? He comes out of the water, he looked like the creature from the Black Lagoon or some toy you get from Toys R Us.
That's like how weird 70s porn started, man. It is! Oh, Mr. Monster!
Oh my God.
So what's cornier now? Like Clash of the Titans, the 81 version, or the old King Kong movies where you had dudes just dress up in gorilla suits and go smash a miniature Tokyo and call it cinema.
Those are cheesier, but I love them all. Great effects when the statue face falls down and starts talking.
Yeah. That was wild.
We got a lot of Viking stuff tonight, huh, Ted?
We do. We got a big show tonight. We got Vikings and NFL news. Been a busy week in Vikings land. The off season, the first couple of big dominoes have fallen for the offseason roster moves. From there, we've got our positional analysis, and we've got a new intro for that segment, and I think you guys are really going to like it. And then, of course, as always, to wrap the show up, we've got Trivia with Toonces, which is the best segment in sports entertainment. Before we do that, we've got a couple things we want to tell you about with Purple Pain Forums, kind of our official website, if you will. And then our actual website for our contests and all that, VikingsReport.com. But Ruby's got a pre-recorded message. So hit it, Ruby.
That's what he said, right, guys?
Before we get going, we want to tell you about a website that we are affiliated with. It's called Purple Pain Forums, purplepainforums.com. It's a great message board full of smart, intelligent, funny Vikings fans, specifically Vikings focused, but there's plenty of off-topic subjects to talk about, the college football, the NFL draft, even stuff that has nothing to do with sports, if you're into that. We are the official podcast and YouTube program for Purple Pain Forums. They are our official website / message board. Funky Town and Dan Chat do a great job of moderating that board and keeping the topics lively and moving and everything else. Great place to go talk Vikings football. Check it out when you get a chance. The other place I want to talk to you about is our little humble corner of the internet, VikingsReport.com. On VikingsReport.com, you get all our social media contacts for both Twitter and Facebook. None of us are on Instagram. None of us are on TikTok because that's a commie spy program. Over on VikingsReport.com, you can check out our prize vault. We've also got merchandise from Zazzle.com. You can get a mug. You can get a travel mug. You can get a beer stein. So go over there when you get a chance to check those two websites out. Okay. Any questions?
This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
All right. So, like I said, we got a big show. We got Vikings and NFL news. We got our positional analysis. We're going to hit the guys on the roster, and we're going to look at some free agents. And then we're going to do the world-famous, regionally popular Drew's Big Board. But before we do that, Drewster, what time is it?
I'm cooler than you are. So why don't you release that Kraken and light this candle?
He's right. Light this candle.
Yes! Release the Kraken!
All right, I'm cooler than you are. Why don't you fix your little problems and light this candle?
He's right. Let's light this candle.
He surely is. Light the candle.
Yes. Resume the countdown.
I love this show.
Old Harry Hamlin was releasing the Kraken a lot in the 80s. My sister stalked him for a while.
Really? Got a number?
It is a painful lesson, and one you're about to learn. I really like her.
We're joking. It's a fun family show.
Let's get to it.
All right. Look, Vikings NFL news. The big stuff so far that's happened this week is the Vikings offseason roster moves are starting to take shape. The first two big names that sort of fell, guys that were speculated about would they be back, would they not be back. Looks like they will not be. Dalvin Tomlinson and Patrick Peterson's contracts were voided earlier in the week. What that basically means is if the Vikings were serious about bringing, especially Dalvin Tomlinson back, it would have been cheaper to redo his contract as opposed to letting it void out and then trying to re-sign him. It's basically would cost them a lot more money to bring him back now. If they did it now, it'd be kind of stupid. So it looks like Dalvin Tomlinson and Patrick Peterson are done with the Minnesota Vikings.
That surprised you, Ted?
I could see an argument for Tomlinson coming back. Then again, you had a guy like Kairos Tonga who played pretty well in very limited action, a lot cheaper. Look, economics are going to drive a lot of these decisions this offseason because the Vikings are $23 million over the cap. They're going to have to make some tough decisions. And Dalvin Tomlinson was a good player, but I think probably too expensive for his anticipated role next season.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Well, I guess I'm a loser. A loser. Too far. God.
All right. The roster's starting to get shook up. The coaching staff is undergoing a transition as well. As we all know, Brian Flores was hired as the defensive coordinator. Hasn't really made any key hires yet that we've seen at the time of this recording, but he has let linebackers coach Greg Minuski, who was a former Viking player back in the day.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
Believe that?
Yeah, he got his walking papers. No other defensive staff hires, but assistant quarterback coach Jared Johnson is now the quarterback coach for D'Amico Ryans down in Houston, so he got a promotion. An assistant D-line coach, Alik Terry, left for Oregon to be the offensive line coach there. So a couple guys, along with Ed Donatel, on to bigger and better things.
How many defensive line coaches do teams have?
14. They have one per player these days.
When Zimmer was here, he had his uncle, his nephew.
I hired my nephew.
You are going to learn to be more professional, Luke. That's what you're.
That won't be the last guy let go, Ted.
One of the reasons I think Flores took the job here is he said it's an opportunity for growth. He will be given a fair amount of freedom in hiring the guys on the defensive side of the ball that he wants coaching with him. Kevin O'Connell just gave the defense to Ed Donatel last year. I think maybe he'll be a little bit more involved, but I think he's still going to go with that general philosophy, and I'm a lot more comfortable with a guy like Brian Flores, kind of like being assistant head coach for defense, if you will, than Ed Donatel.
I think Donatel came in for his interview, and Kevin O'Connell said, all right, tell me everything you've done. And he went over this 30-year career with all these things. I think Brian Flores came in and sat down at the office, and instead of asking him, tell me what you've done, Kevin O'Connell took a different approach and said, tell me what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'd be surprised if that's exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened. You know why, Ted?
Were you in the room?
I had the eye.
Did you have the eye? Did you have that?
The eye! Give us back the eye! Give us the eye! We must have it! We need the eye! Give us the eye!
Speaking of those witches in the eye, so one more bit of Vikings news. Former Minnesota Vikings owner Red McCombs passed away. Red bought the team in 1998, and he took it over from this coven of witches, basically. The Vikings had this group of 10 owners that all own 10% of the team. And the NFL finally said enough of this, because guys like Mike Lynn and Roger Hedwick were ruining the team as like the president of football operations. So they made them all sell. A guy by the name of Reggie Fowler was going to buy the team, and he didn't have the money. Tom Clancy, the Hunt for Red October author, was rumored to buy the team. And
I think Reggie Adams also owned a little bit of that.
Good friend of the show, Reggie Adams. So Red McCombs takes over, and from 1998 to 2005, first couple years, man. I mean,
the first year it was here in 98, that magical year. I mean, that got him off to a good start.
Yeah. I went to the NFC Championship again in 2000. By the end of his tenure, though, he couldn't get a new stadium. If you remember, Jesse the Body Ventura was elected governor of Minnesota, and he's like, no, you're a billionaire. You can build your own. And there's a lot to be said about that. So, like, he really went cheap bastard Red McCombs like his last 2 or 3 years. He cut corners on everything. Mike Tice, the only coach he hired because he inherited Dennis Green. The last couple of years, Winter Park, the old headquarters, was really getting run down. The air conditioning went on the fritz, and he wouldn't pay for it. I heard through a couple different people that Mike Tice paid $1 million out of his own pocket to fix the air conditioning in Winter Park because Red McCombs wouldn't.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was pretty much hated by the end of his time here. But he still signed guys like Antoine Winfield.
That's a hell of a signing.
He got Moss and Dante Culpepper, the richest contract extensions in the history of the NFL for those positions at the time. It's a very mixed legacy for Red McCombs. And I think a lot of people remember the end more than they remember the beginning. I think if you take his ownership with a full lens, it's a little bit more balanced.
You hear a lot of ripping on that guy, but gotta give a man his due.
I got a Red McCombs story. You want to hear it?
Oh, of course I do, Ted. Ted Glover story? You kidding me?
So my brother Brad, our good buddy Dave Stefano, and I go to the Minnesota Vikings draft party in 2005. Back then it was at the old Winter Park, and they had a bunch of chairs and a stage set up on their indoor practice field. Red comes out like right when the draft, and the Vikings were picking. This year they had the 2 draft picks. They ended up drafting Troy Williamson and Erasmus James in the first round. It was right after they traded Moss. So everybody was pissed off at McCombs for trading Moss. And so Red comes out and he's holding the microphone and he's yelling, "Purple pride, purple pride, purple pride," all up and down the stage. And I mean, he is getting booed like the biggest heel in WWE history. It was like when Hogan turned heel at the Bash on the Beach or whatever it was. He was just getting booed mercilessly. And then he kind of stops and the crowd kind of simmers down a little bit. And right as it simmered down, the dude that was sitting right next to me, we've been talking, the dude right next to me yells really loud, "You Red!" And like the whole place heard it. I mean, it echoed, man. Oh my God, we were howling. I about fell out of my chair. I was laughing so hard.
That's a classic story, Glover.
Didn't even face him. When that dude said it, Red shot a glare. I'm pointing at the dude, and I thought we're both laughing. I still to this day don't know what that guy's name was. Funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
That's great, man.
Everybody's mad at him because he traded Moss. That was his last. I think that was Red's last middle finger to the state of Minnesota when he couldn't get a stadium trade Randy Moss.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Red.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's it for Vikings news. So now we got a special guest, and he is going to introduce next segment. Go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the Vikings Report with Drew and my Papa. Positional analysis. Hit it, Papa.
All right, Gabriel, I'll hit it. Thank you very much. Maybe we should change the show to Vikings Report with Drew and my Papa. What do you think? Or the Gabriel Show with Drew and Ted?
I'd rather listen to him during the Super Bowl than Greg Olson. Let me tell you right now.
All right, every week, as you know, in the off season, we take one position a week.
Couldn't get through one episode.
We look at the guys that are projected to be on the roster and whether or not they're going to be back. We look at potential free agents the Vikings might look to sign. Then, of course, we've got the world famous and regionally popular Drew's Big Board, 1 through 15, his top 15 wide receivers.
Actually, we went 16 this week. I couldn't limit it down to 15.
Oh, that's right.
Probably left off 15 guys that are going to be drafted in the 3rd round. There's, as usual, a lot of wide receivers, Ted.
So there's an elephant in the room that everybody's been talking about with the wide receiver position, and it's Adam Thielen. Look, Adam Thielen has been a good player for a lot of years. Everybody knows his story. There's a lot of sentimental feelings when it comes to Adam Thielen. But look, Adam Thielen's numbers have just continued to go down. In 2020, he had 74 receptions for 925 yards. 21, he went down to 67 for 726. This year, 70 catches, but only 716 yards.
Can't even remember when he had a 100-yard game.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. It has been a while. Look, Thielen would be a good, reliable 3rd wide receiver if he was not slated to make $20 million. That's his cap hit. $20 million, give or take a couple $100,000 here or there.
He's not going to play here for that.
I don't think he is. There's already rumors out that the Vikings and him are talking on a possible contract extension. If they cut him, he's got a $13.5 million dead cap hit with $6 million in cap savings. There's this thing with the cap, we talked about being able to adjust numbers and all that, where they can designate a couple guys as a post-June 1 cut, which means after June 1st, it would only be a $1.6 million cap hit with $13 million in savings. I just think Adam Thielen's time here in Minnesota is drawing to a close, dude.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but it's all about football. It's not about, bringing guys back. I have a ton of respect for Adam Thielen, for where he came from, what he developed into as a receiver. He's still a good receiver. I think if you wanted to get something for him, maybe you trade him last year before the deadline. You might have been able to get a little higher of a pick for a team that's trying to get to the playoffs. But
right.
I mean, we were in the playoffs, but you kind of got to move ahead of time. Can you trade him now?
No, I don't think he has any trade value at all. I think the only people that do think he has trade value are the absolute diehard Homer Vikings fans that love Adam Thielen because he's from Detroit Lakes and grew up a fan and all that. I respect all that. I do. And it's sad. I get it. I mean, I don't like it, but you can't bring Adam Thielen back at the cap hit that he's projected to cost the Vikings right now.
So are we just going to go into this thinking that he's gone for this segment?
Yeah. It feels like both the Vikings and Thielen know that the marriage is over and they're just staying together for the kids. I mean, if that's the case, just go. Just be done with it. Make it an amicable parting. You know, Thielen can come to Minnesota on weekends. You know, he gets the kids on the weekends and say hi to everybody.
Do you think he plays for somebody else?
Yeah, I think somebody would. He's probably got 1 or 2 years left. His wife's family are huge Green Bay Packer fans.
Ted!
Wouldn't surprise me to see him go to Green Bay and play with Aaron Rodgers for 1 year. They're good friends in real life.
I don't like what's coming out of your mouth right now.
That's what she said.
Not going to Green Bay, Ted. Tell me no.
All I know is Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah was not hired to continue the Rick Spielman era.
Right.
And the Rick Spielman era was to keep what he thought were his core guys together as long as possible. When your core guys are 34, 35, 36, they're not your core guys anymore. They're your vets that are probably played here a year too long. And it's time to move along.
I think you're right. What about the rest of the roster?
Speaking of the rest of the roster, the official 5th-year option for first-round pick numbers were released. For Justin Jefferson, his 5th-year option in 2024 will be a fully guaranteed $19.7 million. Jalen Reagor, whom the Vikings traded for, he was also a first-round pick, famously picked one player before Justin Jefferson. His 5th-year option number in 2024 will be $12.9 million, but there was a tweet from Chris Thomason of the St. Paul Pioneer Press a couple days ago that said the Vikings are not expected to pick up his option. So Reagor's going to probably play out his 4th year of his rookie contract and then gone. Justin Jefferson, are they going to do an extension for him or let him play under his 5th-year option? Would actually kind of be kind of a bargain.
A deal.
Right now with the way the wide receiver market's exploding.
For what you're going to pay him next year, this will be a deal because he's getting twice that next year. He's getting $40 million a year.
I don't think you're too far off. It would not surprise me if he hits that number.
It will be expensive, so you take advantage of the 19.7. Maybe we win the Super Bowl when he's got 19.7.
Yeah. There's a faction of the Vikings fan base. I believe the official scientific term for these folks are called morons.
Looks like you're the moron.
They're very, very small in numbers, but they're vocal, like cicadas when they hop out of the ground every 17 years. They don't shut up. But they're saying, look, because the Justin Jefferson extension is going to be so expensive, that maybe the Vikings ought to look to trade Justin Jefferson.
No.
Well, no, I get it. But, I mean, that's their life. Boy, he's going to be expensive. Well, look, you know, we just talked about core players. And to build a Super Bowl contending team, you have to have good core players. He's one of those guys. You got to pay him.
You try to put a team together in your franchise to get guys like that, and they're so rare. Yeah. It's so rare to get a player like that. When we got Moss, same thing. He is untradeable. What are you going to replace him with?
Jalen Reagor.
You didn't look 50 years for a Justin Jefferson. You can't get rid of him. You can't.
It would be like going from Randy Moss to Troy Williamson again, even if the guy who was the next Troy Williamson didn't drop every pass throw. So, and then the other guy that is kind of a not really topic of conversation, it's KJ Osborne. He'll be around. He's kind of picking up his game. He's been pretty consistent, 50, 60 catch guy, 650 yards the last 2 years. He's scheduled to make $2.8 million in 2023. Then he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He's a guy you're looking to extend and maybe lock up for another 3-4 years.
I wanted to talk about this guy real quick to get your take on it because, Ted, you're pretty accurate, even though you don't have the eye. Give me the eye! Is KJ Osborne a solid number 2?
I need the eye! I need the eye!
Is KJ Osborne a number 2 wide receiver? There were long stretches of last season where KJ Osborne was completely invisible. I thought he was going to have a huge year last year. I thought he was going to have close to 1,000 yards, if not over 1,000 yards. But I think he has that ability. I mean, he has that Jake Reed ability to get, I think, 1,100 yards. He reminds me of Jake Reed in a lot of ways. I don't think he was as fast as Jake, but I think he's got really good hands. He runs very good routes. I just don't see a level of consistency there yet. Like, for example, everybody bags on Kirk on that 4th and 8 check down to TJ Hawkins in the playoff game. If you'll remember, on 3rd down, it was 3rd and 8. Osborne was running right across the middle. Kirk hit him right in the numbers, and he dropped the ball. I really like him. I really like him as a player. I think he flashes a lot of skill.
We talked with Chris Gates after some of these games. We did our live shows after the game with Vikings Report Rewind with Christopher Gates. And I was kind of on the soapbox telling you guys that he doesn't get enough chances. He doesn't get enough footballs to make a difference. Now, you take Thielen out of the equation. KJ Osborne had 60 catches for 650 and 5 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
They take Thielen out of there. Those numbers only got to go up. And he's got experience with Kirk. I think he is a solid number 2. The better your number 2 is, the better your number 1's going to be.
I think next year is a year-long audition for him, to be honest.
I'm looking at 80 catches, 900 yards, and maybe 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
What about Tristan Jackson?
Well, him and Blake Prohl, they signed reserves futures contract, so they'll be in training camp next year. Jalen Naylor, I don't even know her. He's a guy I think that has the ability to step up into that wide receiver 3 role next year.
Vikings should have a pretty potent wide receiver group.
Assuming Adam Thielen is out of the picture.
Right.
You've got Justin Jefferson, you've got KJ Osborne, and then you've got really big question mark. So the Vikings have questions behind Jefferson and KJ Osborne next year. And so one of the ways they could look to address those shortcomings, if you will, would be in free agency. What are your thoughts overall on the potential wide receiver free agency class, Drew?
Of course, there's a ton of them. I think the Vikings could go free agency because that's a position you get a guy that comes in that can play right away. But there are some good guys in there.
Who's one of your guys that you're kind of looking at?
I like Mac Hollins from the Raiders.
Okay.
He's 29, but 57 catches, 690 yards. Only cost $2 million. He seemed like a really solid wide receiver. And then I had Alan Lazard. And then I had, believe it or not, your boy from Ohio State, Paris Campbell. I like Paris Campbell because he's fast. He got 57 catches for 581 last year and 3 touchdowns. And then Richie James from New York, who's killing us those games he played against the Giants at the end of the year. Richie James, he's a free agent. He only cost $1 million over there in New York. He had 60 catches himself. So you remember Richie James running all over the field.
Yeah.
Against us. So those are just a few names that I saw in there.
One name I'm going to throw out there is DJ Chark from Detroit. PFF, they did an article at the end of the year. Every team should target this free agent or that free agent. They identified Chark. I think the Lions are going to go get him. Alan Lazard was also on my list as well because federal law, there was a law that was passed, I believe, in 2004, maybe earlier, maybe 2003, that says the Minnesota Vikings must sign a former Green Bay Packer every year.
Greg Jennings?
Yeah, Greg Jennings, Longwell, Favre, going to be Aaron Rodgers in a couple of years probably.
Yeah.
Here's a guy. Should I do my Chris Collinsworth slide for that one?
Here's a guy.
Deontay Hardy from the New Orleans Saints. 2021, he had 30 catches, 570 yards, 3 touchdowns. Only played 4 games last year. Had hamstring injuries, had turf toe. Deontay Hardy is a guy that might be a little sneaky under the radar signing. I would really like. The next guy is, you mentioned the one guy from the Giants. How about his counterpart, Darius Slayton, who ran all across the Vikings in those 2 games as well? There are guys out there. I'm not sure what they're going to do in free agency, but if they're going to go wide receiver, I would think it would have to be more in the Dollar General aisle of free agency as opposed to Saks Fifth Avenue.
All the guys in the draft that I have coming up here in a minute, they're all better than these guys we're mentioning on this free agent list.
I think so too.
If we're going to get a number 2, he'll start out at number 3. Let's draft somebody. Let him beat out Osborne for number 2. I don't know.
We use the eye!
Early the next morning.
Oh, now we're in.
8 hours later.
Like me looking for $2 to get a long neck when I was 20.
Oh, no, I just need $1 more for one more beer. Adrian Peterson! Adrian Peterson!
The wide receiver list, Ted, it's always good. Every year, teams are trying to get that Justin Jefferson type guy. They all are, Ted.
Yep.
Always my favorite draft thing to research. Let's face it, it's better to watch wide receivers run routes and catch footballs than watch the guards and tackles. That's not so exciting.
Right.
96 wide receivers taken the last 3 drafts.
Wow.
36 in the first 2 rounds.
As much as the running back position has evolved downward, the wide receiver position has evolved upward.
2021, there was 36 wide receivers drafted. 15 were in the first 3 rounds, so half of them.
Wow.
I know everybody has Quentin Johnson first. I think Addison's more ready to go.
You got Johnson going, what, top 10, top 15 as well?
Yes, top 15. Addison, Johnson, top 15 easily. Those are the 2 best wide receivers in this class, I think.
Hey, who's your third guy, Drew?
You know what? I almost went Jalen Hyatt.
Did you really?
But I couldn't do it because when you watch that guy from Ohio State, Ted, I don't know who the wide receiver coach is at Ohio State, but that guy teaches people how to run routes, man. I'm telling you, Olave was the best route runner I saw last year in the draft. And then you watch Jackson Smith's tape. Who's teaching him how to run these routes?
His name is Brian Hartline. He's a former Ohio State wide receiver, played a few years in the NFL. Hartline, after not being able to beat the University of Michigan again, was promoted to offensive coordinator. So Brian Hartline is going to be the offensive coordinator for the upcoming season. But he's developed all those guys. Olave, Paris Campbell, Michael Thomas, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr. And I am missing a ton of dudes.
Right.
Because Ohio State has become wide receiver U because of Brian Hartline. So, okay, you want to talk Jackson Smith and Jigba. He only had like 5 catches this year because he hurt his hamstring in week 1, tried to come back 2 or 3 different times. It was too early each time. And he only ended up with 5 catches all season, which really sucked because coming into the season, he was the top ranked wide receiver in the country, even ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. came out and had a great year. And we'll be talking about him this time next year. But if you want a true idea of what Jackson Smith and Jigba is all about, go back and watch the 2023 Rose Bowl against Utah.
He had like 300 yards, didn't he?
He had 300 yards receiving. It was an insane football game. Ohio State was down big. They had a furious second half comeback, and it was all thanks to Jackson Smith and Jigba. You talked about his route running. He has very clean hands, doesn't drop footballs. You can play him outside. You can play him in the slot. He's not going to blow you away with his speed, but he is fast. I mean, like you look at that Rose Bowl game, when he caught the ball, he didn't get caught. But he is fast that if he can get the ball like on a crossing route or a dig route or whatever, and a guy misses a tackle, he's going to get a lot of yards after catch. And the thing I like about him is not only is he a first-round guy, but if you look and you read mock draft articles and all that, there's a chance that he might be there at 23, and the Vikings are going to have quite a predicament on their hands if they stay at 23 and Jackson Smith and Jigba is there at 23, because a lot of people think the Vikings need a wide receiver, and that would be a great pick.
Well, not only to the Vikings, but imagine the power of trading up for somebody else. Imagine what you can get for him.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to come take him at 23, they'd have to give up the bank for him. One thing I did notice on his tape that I really liked was the body control. That guy does a great job of shielding guys off. I think Marvin Harrison, the guy's still on the team, right? He's better than Olave and him.
I think so too. When it's all said and done, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the best of all.
When Marvin Harrison becomes a Viking, I'm going to send you a jersey.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, he's going to be a Viking next year. That's what we're going to
think so? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Imagine Justin Jefferson and Marvin Harrison Jr.
I would need some alone time.
He'd be unstoppable. Defensive coordinators would be soiling themselves, Dad.
Nick Mullins would throw for 5,000 yards. Who are some other guys you got?
Guy I really like is Zay Flowers. Very good slot receiver. Let me tell you why I like Zay Flowers.
Why do you like Zay Flowers, Drew Bunning?
Because he played for a crappy team and he's still shredded.
Like Larry Fitzgerald at Pitt back in the day?
Yeah, or Jay Cutler at Vanderbilt. I mean, you got to look at those guys who don't have strong teams.
Yeah.
Flowers had 78 catches, 1,077 yards, and 12 touchdowns on a crappy Boston College team. His lack of height and weight, his size might be a problem, but he's a great slot guy. If the Vikings want to look for a slot guy, I would take Zay Flowers.
You know, I want to talk about some of these guys downstream you have kind of lower down on your list.
Okay.
I still believe the Vikings are going to pick a receiver. It would have to be probably 4th round unless they trade up. There's 2 Big 10 guys and Big 12 guy. Parker Washington, Marvin Mims, and your guy Ronnie Bell from the University of Michigan. I hate Ronnie Bell as a Michigan Wolverine. I think he'd be a good mid-round pickup for the Vikings in the draft.
He would fit perfectly, Ted. I mean, he had the big injury a couple of years ago with the knee. There's no question of what's he going to be in this year's draft because he's had all last year to prove himself. He came back from it. Ronnie Bell is a guy who makes big catches in traffic. He's a go-to guy. He wants the ball on 3rd and 15. He's the guy you want to go to. Solid possession receiver. He can beat you deep. He can beat you in the intermediate routes. Great hands. I love Ronnie Bell. I think Ronnie Bell would be a good fit for the Vikings as a number 2 receiver. We mentioned body control and Jigba. He needs to work on that a little more, getting the 50-50 balls, getting the contested balls. I mean, he has great hands. And, in college, everybody's open to the big giant windows because nobody plays man-to-man.
Right.
So everybody's open. But Bell can snag all those. But he needs to be a little better on the contested catches. A little bit more physical. That's why I had to drop him a little bit.
Marvin Mims and Ronnie Bell are both on the board when the Vikings pick. And for a fact they're going to go wide receiver. Put your homer hat down and tell me why you would pick Marvin Mims over Ronnie Bell now.
Because Marvin Mims can run you back punts.
Okay. Ronnie Bell's not a special teams guy at all?
No. Mims is just as good of a receiver, I think, maybe a little faster. I would want him to take Ronnie Bell, but I think Mims might be a little better at the next level.
Okay. Drew Bunning, you violated the law here.
Did I?
You got 16 guys this week. You've got, how do you pronounce number 15? Pikachu?
Pika Nakua.
Pika Nakua?
Puka Nakua, Ted, not Pika.
Puka. Pikachu! I've watched way too much Pokemon with my grandkids. Why did you add Tyler Scott as your 16th?
I did because he's super fast.
Okay.
He's super fast. He's a gamer. He'll play injured. He's just a great football player, Ted. And some of those guys, they're like Wes Welker, Edelman type of guys who just are always hard-nosed to the end.
Yeah.
He's a great team player and 900 yards and 9 TDs. He runs a 4.29, Ted. That's another guy you could set up in the slot. Not so much outside, but in the slot, maybe out of the backfield. Gadget guy.
If Al Davis were still alive, he would draft Tyler Scott in the first round. Just win, baby.
There's somebody else I want to mention. Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State.
Yeah.
6'3", 210, 107 catches for Hutchinson. 1,171 yards and 6 touchdowns.
I know he plays for Iowa State, so he had 100 more catches and 1,000 more yards receiving than all the Iowa wide receivers combined. Because that's the joke, because Iowa doesn't play offense.
What I like about him is you watch a tape, everything stands out. Body control, route running, the hands, the career production. It all lines up for this guy to be a great player in the NFL. There's not a lot of negatives with him.
Okay.
I'm going to mention my honorable mentions because last week I mentioned an honorable mention and we ended up putting him on the Viking board because you loved him so much.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Deuce Vaughn.
Deuce Vaughn, yeah.
Honorable mentions. Jonathan Mingo, Ole Miss. Charlie Jones, Purdue. And Dontavian Wicks with Virginia. Those are the 3 guys that could easily have gotten any of those last spots.
Okay. All right. We'll take a quick break, come back and do some trivia and wrap the show up after that.
Slow zoom on the desert, there's Flag's evil guy cut. Loco.
Didn't really see his face. Bruins with a snake.
Scared guy looks around.
Turn around, snake touch, turn blue. Sunset, old man on a boat. Grab a sword, stab myself. Wave hand, zoom out. Statue fall in the water. Punch a brick. People walking, mountaintop screaming up. Draw sword, turn around. Scorpion guy running downhill. Jump.
Dragon grab, swing, stab, falling rock, open arm, swing, miss, ocean running, sliding down, turn around, and some slow motion falling down.
Hit ground, twice, turn, grab, spear, no eyes, look, fire, hold her neck, people cape, on my back, scorpion, slow jump, more scorpion, then titans and horses and stab, will go falling and clashed his old mid-air stab, breaking rock, sex scenes, unsheathed, bad guy dies, then another dragon flies.
Welcome to Toonses Trivia.
Hi, Toonses. How are you?
Good.
Hi, Toonses.
Hi, Drew. All categories are picture puzzles today. Okay, so Clash of the Titans, first category. This one could be a character's name, an actor's name, anything to do with Clash of the Titans. All right, for 100, name the...
Ursula Andress.
Yes.
Harry Hamlin.
Very, very good. All right, for 200, name the person.
Lawrence Olivier.
Yes.
Who's that girl in the middle?
Mariska Hargitay.
Is that Marissa Hargitay?
Olivia Benson on SVU?
Yeah, I didn't know what her character name was.
Meow, meow.
All right. For 300, name the thing.
Coke? Drugs? I don't know enough about drugs to identify with that, Ted.
Yeah, right. What kind of drug is that?
It's the Kraken.
Yes! Very good.
Tremendous.
That's really great.
Oh, my goodness.
Kraken.
Ted knows what crack is. All right, for 400, name the thing.
Backham Swan. That's Lynn Swan. Harry Hamlin.
Yes!
There we go.
All right, there we go.
That was a good sweep. Viking draft picks. This is just Viking draft picks in history. It'll be the picture puzzle with a clue on what year and what round they were taken.
Okay.
All wide receivers.
Plus, we got to name the college, Ted.
Ooh, okay.
Here we go for 100. Name the player.
Jack. 65. Man, this is before my time.
Jack Winter. Jack Avalanche. Jack Snowblind.
Seriously?
Jack Winters, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's Jack Winter.
Jack Snow.
Jack Snow. Ended up playing for the Rams, I believe.
What college?
Jack Snow went to Notre Dame.
Did he really?
Yes.
Nice.
Name the player.
Buster. 1980. Buster Rhymes.
Buster
Yes!
From
I don't know.
Oklahoma.
All right. Good job. For 300, name the player.
Keith Harthair. 1977. That would be Keith. What was that? Keith Millard? Hartenstein?
Seriously, what is that thing on the right?
A hair.
Keith Hartwig?
Yes!
I don't know the college, Ted.
I don't know.
All right, for 400, name the player.
Joe Webb.
Yes!
He was drafted as a wide receiver?
He was drafted as a wide receiver, yes.
Yes, Joe Webb.
Dirty Spider.
Okay. Third category, Viking wide receivers. These are just Viking wide receivers in history. No particular anything.
Oh,
okay.
Other than they're wide receivers. All right, name the player.
Bobby Wade.
Yes! Good job. What college?
I can't remember. I'll say Florida.
I want to say Northwestern, but I think that was Dwayne Bates.
Okay, for 200, name the player.
Is that Tony Tucker, the boxer, or is that?
No, English guy.
That's right.
Heavyweight champion.
Yes. Not Frank Bruno, but
no, Lewis. Was it Lewis?
Lennox Lewis.
Lennox. Yeah, that's Lennox Lewis. So that
Leo
Lewis.
Yes. Good job. What college?
I don't know. I'm not doing the colleges. We got to look these up. I'm gonna say LSU.
Okay. 300, name the player.
Bernard Berrien.
Yes! Good job. Okay. Sadly, last one. For 400, name the player.
Hank Basket.
Yes! Thank you guys for playing. We'll see you next week.
Oh, folks, we have come to the end of episode 91. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks to Gabriel for introducing our segments for the rest of the year. Did a really great job, buddy. Love you. Drew, thanks for all the knowledge you impart on me every week on this stuff, whether we're talking roster spots or free agents or draft guys. Ruby, thanks for everything you do. We will try to do better the next time, buddy. Take us home.
Yes, next week we will be having tight ends, Ted. And that's always exciting, tight end position.
Not saying it.
That's what she said.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We're rolling right along with this off-season stuff. Ted, thank you for hosting this crazy, crazy show that we got going. I don't know how you keep track of it.
I don't.
Toon says, thanks for the production. We will be back next week with another episode, and we will be rocking and rolling. And say goodnight, Ted.
Good night, Ted. Kraken!
Release the Kraken!
my God! It's all so beautiful. I honestly thought I would never get out.